A hike in San Diego County. We'll be taking a walk through the woods today, featuring the great diversity of plants and animals in San Diego County. This is what we don't want to see in Southern California. If you look in the distance on the horizon, right about in the center of the video, you'll see smoke coming from a wildfire. Now let's go down for a hike. This is one of my favorite hikes in the Laguna Mountains. This path, as you can see, is just loaded with blooming bushes. This is California ceanothus, or white lilac. The very same bush comes in a blue or a purple, but I never see them next to each other. I don't know why, it's just the way it is. But as you can see, the pathway on the left and on the right and on the hills is just full of blooming bushes. It's just great. It does not smell like a Michigan lilac. It's not that strong, but it does have a faint, sweet odor, so it's really nice. On this very same path, quite a while ago, I came across a San Diego mountain king snake constricting a poor hapless lizard. And the following clip shows that process kind of sped up a little bit, but it was really interesting. The king snake's a beautiful snake. It's sometimes confused with a coral snake, which is deadly, but this is harmless. Anyway, he's constricting a California alligator lizard. And in this next clip, you'll see the body of the lizard is gray and striped at the base of the ball. You see the lizard? Anyway, the snake will grab the lizard by the head and drag it down the hole and swallow it whole. Here you see the lizard being dragged into the snake's hole, and it's gone. San Diego County's limited forests are mainly comprised of pines and oaks, deciduous and evergreen. This is a different San Diego mountain king snake that I was fortunate to come across. You don't see them very often up here. In fact, this is about only the second or third one I've come across in all my hikes up here. But you can see they are beautiful, and I was very, very lucky to get this shot. Okay, we're back in the sky and we're headed towards Cuyamaca Peak in Cuyamaca Rancho State Park, where I found a real nice speckled rattlesnake. Okay, this is a speckled rattlesnake, and I found it nearly to the top of Cuyamaca Peak. And it looks very well fed, and it's about 3 foot long. And when we get a picture of the rattles, you can see there's maybe half a dozen rattles on there. I think I've heard that a rattlesnake will gain 1 rattle a year, so this rattlesnake's maybe 5-6 years old, I don't know. But they're very, very potent, and they're very dangerous. Now when I bring a close-up of the head At the end of this clip, you can see two white spots. Those are the center of the eyes, but you also see some discs around those eyes. That's still the eye, it's just very, very well camouflaged. Coming back from Cuyamaca Peak to the forest floor, we'll see what we can find. All along the pathway here, you can see this bunches and bunches of white flowers blooming. This is called summer snow. And it blooms in the late spring to early summer, and they do so well up there in the very, very poor soil of sand and decomposed granite that it almost looks like somebody's been up there with a fertilizer can. And on the other side of the lake, we see some more yellow spring flowers, and there's a pathway that runs right along there. Very, very nice in the spring. And at the end of this pathway, on the other side of the lake, we come upon more meadows of different wildflowers. These are tidy tips and California buttercups. This is a tarantula hawk. It'll paralyze the tarantula, pull it down its hole, and lay one egg on the outside of the tarantula. When the egg hatches, the larva will go inside the tarantula and feed off the living tarantula for weeks at a time. This is one of our horned lizards, and I don't know if you can see him or not. He's blending in fairly well. But he's a great lizard. They don't bite. They're very, very docile. And the only defense mechanism that they have is if they are attacked, they can spit blood out of their eye sockets, maybe 5 inches into the air. But look at the head. Look at the horns coming off the back of the head and the scales and everything. Talk about personality plus. My favorite lizard. Okay, we're a little deeper in the forest here. And the birds you hear squawking are acorn woodpeckers. They're letting me know that they spotted me. But across the field are a couple of mule deer. They did not spot me. There's a buck and a doe. And generally, they're a little bit bigger than the eastern white-tailed deer. And you can see why they're called mule deer because of the size of the ears. This appears to be a mother and an offspring, and they knew I was there. And I have to tell you, the mother is one of the most beautiful mule deer I've ever seen. And speaking of acorn woodpeckers, there's one right there. They usually stick in very large family units, immediate family, and as the name implies, they gather acorns to get them through the winter. And what they do is they'll grab the acorns, drill a hole in usually a pine tree, insert the acorn, and they'll go up the whole side of the pine tree all the way to the top almost. And they'll guard those acorns with their lives against anybody else trying to steal them. This is the bark from a dead pine tree. Acorn woodpeckers made the holes in the bark to cache their acorns as a food source throughout the whole winter. As you can see, acorns are stored far up this dead pine tree. The holes do not damage the tree and only go through the outside layer of the bark. Here we have a pine cone from one of our sugar pines. These pine trees are the largest in San Diego County, and the cones can get even larger than the one you see here. The cones hang like Christmas ornaments on the edge of the limbs and are a favorite food source for the western gray squirrel. Here's another favorite food source of the western gray squirrel. This is from a coulter pine tree, and these cones can weigh up to 11 pounds. They've been given the nickname Widowmaker. You don't even want to pitch your tent under a coulter pine tree. A big one can go right through. The scales of the cones are extremely hard, but help keep the ever-growing teeth of the gray squirrels trimmed to a proper length. And this is what's left of either pine cone after the gray squirrels have gone after the seeds. I came across this flock of turkeys in the early morning, and for the life of me, I don't see a male in this group. They all look like hens to me, but if I'm wrong, somebody please leave me a note. The turkeys are not stupid birds. While you see some of them with their heads down foraging, you can see others in the flock with their heads straight up in the air looking out for danger. They will forage during the day, but at night they will roost in the trees for safety. I know this looks strange, but some of our Jeffrey pines, not all of them, but some of our Jeffrey pines in our mountains smell like vanilla. Some claim that they smell pineapple, but I smell vanilla. This one's one of them. This is a juvenile red-tailed hawk. It has not acquired the brick red coloration of the tail or the reddish-brown eyes that a mature red-tailed hawk would have. And they mate for life, and about the only way you could tell the difference between a male and a female is if the two of them were sitting on a branch next to each other. The female would be about 25% larger than the male. Most falconers in the United States like to work with the red-tailed hawk because of its size and strength. Okay, if the red-tailed hawk had an ugly stepsister, this is it. This is a turkey vulture, and they're very common in all the lower 48 states. I caught this one sunning itself early in the morning. The ultraviolet rays from the sun helps to kill organisms on the feathers, and the birds will also urinate on their legs and feet for the same purpose. It's impossible to tell a male from a female, but they do mate for life, and a lot of times they'll nest right on the ground. As I passed this vulture, it did a 180 and put its back to the sun and spread its wings. It's then that you see it rivals the beauty of the red-tailed hawk. With the sun lighting the edge of the feathers on this 5-foot wingspan, you see the symmetry and the true beauty of this bird. As we pull back from the scene, the vulture reminds me of the top of a totem pole. And right in the middle of the forest, on the top of a small hill, we come upon 4 graves of what I understand were past property owners who didn't cotton to trespassers. And people around here say they still don't cotton to trespassers, but what are a bunch of dead people going to do to me? Now, who would think in hot, dry Southern California we'd have ferns and mosses? But we do. Our Miriam's chipmunk has 2 speeds, fast and faster. But I'm not sure what kind of chipmunk this is. This is about as much color as we get in the fall in our local mountains. As you can see, it's primarily yellows. These are black oak trees, and they share the common leaf shape as do many oaks across the United States. And we have ground puffs that mature in the fall. I think many of you have also spread the spores this way. This is one of the sections of the Pacific Crest Trail in San Diego County that runs through the forest. Hikers have commented that this treed section just doesn't last long enough. This panorama gives you an idea of how open to the elements you are on the Pacific Crest Trail in San Diego County. So in the summer, when we have our 100-degree heat, and in the winter, when we have our usual 2 or 3 snowstorms at the higher elevations, you're totally exposed to the elements. On the left of the screen, the trees section stops abruptly and is replaced with scrub oaks and what is referred to as the elfin forest. Then down below and off in the distance, we see the Salton Sea, which from where we're standing right now is over a 1-mile drop in elevation. Can you see the sea? Just off the Sunrise Highway in the Laguna Mountains, we see a great outlook platform with distant views. As we approach the end of this platform and look directly below, we see a sandy section of the Pacific Crest Trail, right there. We are now traveling down Storm Canyon. And in the further distance is Anza-Borrego Desert State Park. The park is the second largest in the contiguous United States, covering over 600,000 acres. This is one of our manzanitas. The gray branches you see are dead, but on some of those gray branches you see the bright red new bark that carries all the food to the top of the plant.
Windows down, scattered clouds, smell of spring outside. Open road, you sitting close. Let's go somewhere far away. 'Cause if all I have is you, then I'll be just fine. I'll be just fine. I'll be just fine.
This is Southern California's Our Lord's Candle Yucca in bloom. And this is the stalk in the fall after the seed pods have dried and opened. One stalk can produce thousands of seeds, and every individual seed pod can hold hundreds of seeds. Each pod has 6 chambers, and all the small, flat seeds are stacked inside like dishes. If you notice, the pines in our local mountains are very well spaced. The reason for this is because of the lack of rainfall. Comparing the thick forests in the eastern U.S. to the well-spaced forests out here, you see a striking difference. These clumps in the pine tree are dwarf mistletoe. Its great seed dispersal method has the seed capsules literally exploding, resulting in the sticky seeds flying 15 feet through the air. This dwarf mistletoe have seeds that are ripe and ready to disperse. And all it takes is a stiff wind, or a bird coming to feed on the seeds, or the friction from my hand to set these seeds flying. As you can see on this oak mistletoe, It has white berries, unlike what you buy in the store. The sellers in the store mix holly with the mistletoe that they sell, and that's where the red berries come from. And if you're on a hike and you want to bring a sprig of this back with you for your threshold, don't bother. I've tried it and nope, doesn't work. On the side of a road in Cuyamaca, we see a juvenile bobcat that was possibly bitten by a rattlesnake. The state police and park management have arrived on site. Given time, a bobcat can recover from such a bite, but this may not end with a good outcome for the bobcat. Okay, we're going to make a turn from our mountains and go to two favorite hiking spots of mine in San Diego County. One is Eagle Rock and the other is Cedar Creek Falls. The white structure you see on the top of the mountain is the Mount Palomar Observatory, built in the 1940s. At that time, it was state-of-the-art, and it's still used today. And when we pull back from that observatory, we cross a large, wide meadow, and right in the middle of the meadow is Eagle Rock. I wanted to stand next to the rock just to give it a sense of scale. And our other destination is to Cedar Creek Falls. And if you look at the bottom of the falls, you'll see a small dinghy that gives you some kind of an idea of how high the falls are. And on the other side of the falls is a small platform where divers hike up to jump into the pool below. And up this hill is where the hikers climb up to reach that platform to take their leap of faith. Can you see the three divers on the platform up above? One of them is about to jump, and there he goes. Jumping into the water from the rocks above is now illegal. Darn, you might know, and I was just about to take my turn. Yeah. This is the end of the video, folks. Thank you for watching A Hike in San Diego County.